Okay, welcome back. Those of you from the breakout rooms, can you hear me okay?
It's
Okay, good to
echoing.
see you, Sandy. Can you hear me, Shuping?
I
That might
think
be
on
a...
your side, the echoing is pretty strong.
Oh, we might have two mics going on. How is that? Is that a little better? Yeah, okay. I'll swap to you when I'm finished here. Great. So it's with great pleasure that I would like to introduce Mark Shishin Gelula, a longtime member of our center. He took Jukai from Roshi Joshin in 2015. I believe this is a continuation of a talk from like a month or two ago, maybe 2 months ago. A little bit about Mark is that he studies with, no, oh, come on. Genzan, yes, with Genzan, but I will let you talk. I'm just teasing. But I do want to introduce the title of your talk is You Can Never Sit Enough. So thank you, Mark, for saving me this morning.
Good morning, everybody. All you Buddhas out there, all you Buddhas here, great to be here again. So the talk's title is You Can Never Sit Enough, so I thought I wouldn't say a word and would just sit for the next 50 minutes. Some of us would do that. So before we begin, just to remind you that about 2 months ago, thank you, Kelly. Maybe I should say something about myself for the people who don't know me. Yes, I'm Mark, and my Zen name that Roshi gave me is Shishin. I just got another transmission, and my name given to me by Joshin Burns is Sokugan. So I am Mark Shishin Sokugan Gelula. It's great actually to have two Zen names. I do study with Genzan Kunel. He is in Kyoto, and a good deal of what we're studying is Dogen. In fact, 98% of what we study is Dogen. The rest that we study is everything around the world, which has to do with Dogen anyway. And 2 months ago, I gave the first part of a talk on Fukanza Zenji, and I'm going to kind of finish it off this morning. I wonder if we can all read it together. Can you put it on share screen? You don't have to read out real loud, but if you could kind of read it so that, and I'll read it, or is it on screen? Okay. Can you all see it? Give me a thumbs up or something. No, Shupin says no, and I don't see it there. Oh, unpin me, it hurts. You know, there's nothing worse than looking at you like this. I realize how old I look. All right. Oh, okay. Are you all right? Because I think I'm still pinned. Should I just go ahead? Or, okay. Yes, so the sprockets wouldn't work. Right, yeah. Yeah, we do. Chris said it used to be the 35 millimeter film would split or something. Still have technical issues. So I'll tell you what, while we're waiting, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to read something because this really gets at a good deal of what Dogen's talking about in here. This is from a poem called I Walk Down the Street. Maybe some of you know it. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. But my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. That's by Portia Nelson, whoever she is. My copy of this is in this book called Zen in the Age of Anxiety. It's a nice little book. Are we able to do it, Kelly, or not? Okay, then let's just forget it. I'm going to read it out loud. Those of you that might have it from last time, if you do, otherwise just listen. My eyesight is getting worse, so please bear with me. Fukan Zazenji, recommending Zazen to all people, Ehei Dogen. The real way circulates everywhere. How could it require practice or enlightenment? The essential teaching is fully available. How could effort be necessary? Furthermore, the entire mirror is free of dust. Why take steps to polish it? Nothing is separate from this very place. Why journey away? And yet, if you miss the mark, even by a strand of hair, you are as distant as heaven from earth. If the slightest discrimination occurs, you will be lost in confusion. You could be proud of your understanding and have abundant realization, or acquire outstanding wisdom and attain the way by clarifying the mind. Still, if you're wandering about in your head, you may miss the vital path of letting your body leap, falling in the hole, right? You should observe the example of Buddha Shakyamuni of the Jeta Grove, who practiced sitting up straight for 6 years, even though he was gifted with intrinsic wisdom. Still celebrated is the Master Bodhidharma of Shaolin Temple, who sat facing the wall for 9 years, although he had already received the mind seal. Ancient sages were like this. Who nowadays does not need to practice as they did. Hence, you should stop searching for phrases and chasing after words. Take the backward step and turn the light inward. Notice the hole in the street. Your body-mind of itself will drop off and your original face will appear. If you want to attain just this, immediately practice just this. For Zazen, a quiet room is appropriate. Drink and eat in moderation. Let go of all involvements and let myriad things rest. Do not think good or bad. Do not judge right or wrong. Stop conscious endeavor and analytic introspection. Do not try to become a Buddha. How could being a Buddha be limited to sitting or not sitting? You're already a Buddha. In an appropriate place for sitting, set out a thick mat and put a round cushion on top of it. Sit in either the full or half lotus posture. For the full lotus posture, first place the right heel on the left thigh and then the left foot on the right thigh. For the half lotus posture, place the left foot on the right thigh. Loosen the robes and bells and arrange them in an orderly way. Then place belts, and arrange them in an orderly way. Then place the right hand palm up on the left foot and the left hand on the right hand with the tips of the thumbs lightly touching each other. Sit straight up without leaning to the right or left and without bending forward or backward. The ears should be in line with the shoulders and the nose in line with the navel. Rest the tongue against the roof of the mouth with the lips and teeth closed. Keep the eyes open and breathe gently through the nose. Having adjusted your body in this manner, take a breath and exhale fully. Then sway your body to left or right. Now sit steadfastly and think not thinking. How do you think not thinking? Beyond thinking. This is the essential art of Zazen. The Zazen I speak of is not learning meditation. It is simply the Dharma gate of enjoyment and ease. It is the practice realization of complete enlightenment. Realize the fundamental point, free from the binding of nets and baskets. Don't keep falling into the same hole. Once you experience it, you're like a dragon swimming in the water or a tiger reposing in the mountains. Know that the true Dharma emerges of itself, clearing away hindrances and distractions. When you stand up from sitting, move your body slowly and rise calmly without haste. We understand from past, excuse me, we understand from past precedents that going beyond ordinary and sacred, where sitting and standing are effortless and boundless, depends solely on the power of Zazen. Furthermore, bringing forth the turning point by using a finger, a pole, a needle, or a mallet, or leading people to enlightenment with a whisk, a fist, a stick, or a shout, cannot be understood by discriminatory thinking. How can it be understood by the use of supernatural powers? Zazen is an awesome presence outside form and color. How is it not the path preceding concept? Thus, do not be concerned with who is wise and who is stupid. Do not discriminate the sharp from the dull. To practice wholeheartedly is the true endeavor of the way. Practice realization is not defiled with specialness. It is a matter for every day. Now, in this world and in other worlds, in China, India, or in China, Buddhist ancestors equally carry the Buddha seal and teach to sit, immersed in steadfastness. Although circumstances may vary in 1,000 ways, wholeheartedly practice Zen, giving yourself fully to the way. Why give up the sitting platform of your own house and wander uselessly in the dust of a remote land? Once a wrong step is taken, you depart from the way. Having received a human life, do not waste the passing moments. Already upholding the Buddha way, why would you indulge in the sparks from a flint? After all, form is like a dewdrop on the grass. Human life is like a flash of lightning, transient and illusory, gone in a moment. Honored practitioners of Zen, please do not grope for the elephant or try to grasp the true dragon. Strive to hit the mark by directly pointing. Revere the mind that goes beyond study and surpasses all things. Experience the enlightenment of the Buddhas, correctly inheriting the samadhi of the ancestors. Practice thusness continuously, and you will be thus. The treasury will open of itself for you to use as you wish. Written at Kanadori Monastery on the 15th day, the mid-year, 7th month, the first year of the Tempuku era, 1233. So traditionally, when we read Dogen, and he has written that to indicate when he wrote it, or gave that talk, then we read that too. That's why I did that. So, there we go. Dogen, as I said last time, is not always really very easy. I'm going to try to pick up where we left off last time. I think we left off where you know what? I'm just going to start at a place that I think is important. How's that? Good. So returning to the let's see here. He says something about stop your thinking, right? He's talking about stopping thinking. And when we stop thinking, what happens? really, what happens? We inevitably start thinking again, right? We can't help it. We're human beings. We cannot help it. Our minds keep working. So what Dogen says we have to do is return to our breath. And then when we return to our breath, inevitably ideas come up. So when he also says stop thinking, he's saying stop searching for an answer. Don't pay attention to what comes up. Just let it go. That's non-thinking. And not thinking is in the moment, but non-thinking is what we continuously do when we're sitting. So it's really, really important to think about the difference of not thinking. Oh, I shouldn't think. And then, of course, you're immediately thinking. But if you continually process non-thinking and return to your breath and just let the thought go. Now, I once heard Sylvia Boorstein give a talk. I was listening to a podcast of her. One second. I didn't want to just make it sound horrible online. Sylvia Boorstein was talking about kind of meditating while she was driving along, and she said, oh, that thought, I just have to let that, that's an important thought, I have to let that go, but I'm going to set it back there to remember it. And I always have kept that in my mind. I thought that was really cool. You know, sometimes when you're sitting and a thought comes up that you really want to remember, Dogen says, don't think about it. Don't hang on to it, but why not just set it back there somewhere? Some people actually keep notes. I don't do that, but I try to do this, just set it back there. So, your body, mind will itself drop off and your original face will appear. This is sitting without any effort. It means that there is no purpose other than to sit. How many of you sat Shishin recently? During Rohatsu, you did too? Okay, so what did we do in Rohatsu? We just sat with no other purpose. We just sat. It's a wonderful practice. And that's what he says, but you don't have to do it in just Shishin. He's saying no other purpose than just to sit. What did I write here? It certainly doesn't appear that either the Buddha nor Bodhidharma practiced with a goal. Bodhidharma sat facing the wall for supposedly 9 years. I'm sure he got up to eat. I'm sure he went to the bathroom. I'm sure periodically he changed his clothes, I hope. In 9 years, they would have fallen off anyway. But really what he did is he meditated for 9 years. He didn't have a goal. He was just going to meditate. Now you could say, I guess, that his goal was to meditate, but probably it didn't go any further than that, just to meditate. So I think if anybody, let's see what I say. I think it couldn't have been more than just to sit zazen and thinking, not non-thinking. I'm talking about Bodhidharma. And even Shakyamuni Buddha, when he first sat, it was just to sit and allow the importance of Buddha nature, that which is within you, reveal itself over and over again. And when you sit zazen for a long period of time, like Shishin, I actually figured it out. I was sitting for 7.5 total hours a day. Really, good things that were happening. Bad things were happening too. I was thinking of awful stuff, but in the end, that awful stuff helped me realize how good my life is. And that was a really nice thing. Dogen goes on to say, if you want to attain just this, immediately practice just this. Just this. This moment. That's what he means. This moment. I talk a lot about this moment. I gave a talk 6 months ago, whatever, and Chris rightly noticed that I was talking about continuous practice. And I think just this is continuous practice. It's this moment. There's no rush to do this. When we allow body-mind to drop off and attain just this, when we take that backward step that Dogen talks about, we were right then and there in it being just this, just now, this moment. In whatever it is, As long as you do it, don't ponder it. Really easy to do, right? Oh, look, all this is crossed off. Good, I decided not to say all those things. Hang on, I really did. No, that's good, saved you all of that. Oh, and think, not thinking, I already talked about that, but let me say it again, because this is really important. And think, not thinking. How do you think non-thinking, he asked? Beyond thinking. This is the essential art of Zazen, Dogen says. So I think in this actual moment, when you turn the backward step, is the moment of non-thinking. And I want to say something else about that. You know, when you sit down, when we actually, I had this insight during Shishin, when we sit down, in that moment of actually sitting on the chair or on the cushion or on the bench, in that very instant, that is the moment of letting go of body and mind. Because you're not thinking about anything, you're just, but as soon as you sit then and start to breathe, you start to think about, oh, my breathing, or you start to have a thought. But in that little moment, that fraction of a moment, you cast off body and mind. I really think that's true, or at least it is for me. So, and so when you take that backward step in that moment of non-thinking, you're not grasping, unless of course you're grasping and turning inward, which you have to be careful about. And we do that, you know, we grasp at the things we're taught. So we think, I think, when I was first studying this, I remember thinking, oh, I have to remember not to think. Well, what was I doing? I was grasping at that thought of not thinking. But taking the backward step is actually when we do want to think, not just right at that moment. We want to move from what's happened outside us to what's happening inside us. So maybe it's not thinking as much as feeling, you know, feeling the release, feeling a happiness, feeling a sadness, feeling an anxiety. Like, you know, when I sat down here in this seat, not over there, I felt a moment of anxiety. I let myself feel it because, you know, anytime I do, I once saw Sammy Davis Jr. It was, you know, a concert. He was doing his comedic work and singing and dancing. He was amazing. But somebody up front, close, when he first came out, said, "Are you nervous?" And he stopped. You know, Sammy Davis was great for this. And he stopped and he said, "Thank you for asking that. The first time I am not nervous will be the time I don't come out on stage." You know, great. So anyway, so sitting Zazen, I think, is a gift that we give to ourselves, and try to do so by wrapping that gift up by being kind to others as best we can. The paper doesn't have to be fancy. You know, this is holiday season. We're all wrapping up and watching Pat wrap. She's the master paper wrapper in her family. And I offered, but she said no. But you know, your paper doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be true. It has to be honest, caring. And that caring comes out of sitting and paying attention to what we've learned out there and bringing it inward. Dogen uses the metaphor of ripples in the ocean numerous times in Shobogenzo, the treasury of the true Dharma eye, from which this is actually not an original part of Shobogenzo, but it's attached to it now because it's supposedly the very first thing he wrote when he returned from China. And when he writes about ripples, for example, in the chapter called Samadhi as a state like the sea, he says that the ripples flow from the ocean waves, of course. Ripples flow from ocean waves. But then he also suggests something interesting, that ocean waves follow ripples. There's a complete interdependence of the ocean in our world. This is Dharma. If we think in terms of Zazen, within this interdependence, our sitting causes ripples of openness, ripples of love, ripples of understanding, ripples of knowing, ripples of caring, ripples of goodness to extend infinitely extending ripples ultimately touch other ripples in this wonderful interdependence. Think about it. So every little thing we do, this is like Indra's net, you know, except in this case, it's the ripples. Everybody know what Indra's net is? Please don't feel, okay. So Indra's net is a notion from ancient Indian, I don't know, ancient Indian lore, where the god Indra said that in the universe is a series of webs, and at the intersection of each web is a jewel, a perfectly faceted jewel, and that jewel, each of those jewels reflects the light from every other jewel. So everything is in the universe is ultimate. I mean, just imagine this vast net, like a web, a spider's web, and each node of the spider's web has a jewel, perfectly faceted jewel that extends its light to every other one. Just imagine that in the universe, the whole universe, everything is connected. So imagine ripples in the ocean touching, creating other ripples in the ocean. But those ripples come from your heart, come from this sitting, this love, this caring, this goodness. I love that metaphor. We just, in Tea with Dogen, we call it Tea with Dogen, we are just finishing this samadhi as a state like the sea chapter. So it's very much, it's raw in me right now. And I just wrote this little bit that I'm reading to you. If you understand the wave action of the ocean, then you can see how these interacting, interdependent ripples will create waves that transcend all things and become with a vast connection of other waves. And people will notice. You will be good because people see how good you are. Change happens, all because we're sitting, or so I believe. So here's a story about goodness. Zen master Rinzai. Now Rinzai was the person who began the other form of Soto, the other major form of Soto Zen, where you read koans. Okay, so in this Zen center, it's a combination of koan study and the other form of Soto Zen, which is the form of Soto Zen that I practice, which is just sitting. Okay, but both, you sit in both. So Master Rinzai was asked by his master Obaku why he was planting so many young pine trees. Rinzai gave two answers. One was to make the scenery in the temple beautiful. The other was to benefit future generations. Isn't that great? I think this is another reason we do Zazen, to benefit future generations. We babysat for our grandchildren last night, and I was not good with my older grandson. I did a really bad thing. I really got angry at him because he refused to wash his hands before dinner. Now, we all know washing your hands before dinner is important, but I didn't go about it in a very positive way. I did not use upaya. Fortunately, Pat did. She said, let's come up with a compromise, and she found a wet wipe. Got him to wash his hands. But with that, but my point is here, you can do Zazen a lot, and you can try to help future generations, but you're still gonna fail, okay? And then you just go back to Zazen and try to improve. At least I do. I see a mom back there nodding her head. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on here. Can somebody give me a sense of time? 10:30. The Zazen I speak of is not learning meditation. What is it? Oh, I love this part. It is simply the Dharma gate of enjoyment and ease. It is the practice realization of complete alignment. Realize the fundamental point free from the binding of nets and baskets. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question again, like a teacher always does. What does he mean by the Dharma gate of enjoyment and ease when you do zazen? Does he mean? I don't want to answer my own question yet. Yes, absolutely. The zazen I speak of is not learning meditation. What is it? It is simply the Dharma gate of enjoyment and ease, is the practice realization of complete enlightenment. Yeah. So he said he thinks that it's not a means to an end, it is a means to its own end. That's brilliant. That's lovely. It's not the only answer. It's a great answer. Any other answers? I think a lot of people think that it means you can just relax. It's like the New Age notion of being relaxed. I don't think it's that at all. I think it is just sitting without thought. Dogen is constantly going back to not thinking, which he learned from his teacher, Rujing. Rujing was in China. Realize the by the way, I didn't mean that you were wrong when I said it's not the only answer, it is right. But in life, there's always more than one answer. We may not know what it is immediately, but there's always more than one. Really used to piss me off when people would say that to me early on in my Zen studies, but get used to it. Realize the fundamental point, free from the binding of nets and baskets. Maybe Dogen meant this for young people, because when I'm sitting for a long time, it's difficult for me to think that I am within a Dharma gate of ease and enjoyment. Not when my shoulders and neck ache and my lower back is stiff. At that time, because the pain I start to have is really quelling my thoughts, is a difficult thing, and everything is just a mess. I think Dogen was really thinking about the gate of enjoyment and ease occurring when we can let go of thoughts, as he said, not the grasping, groping for anything actually that I mentioned a moment ago. Nets and baskets refer to the very hindrances and restrictions that we place on ourselves. In China, nets and baskets were used to capture birds. However, when we practice and experience the perfect realization of the state of the Bodhi mind, all the universe, the fundamental point of realization, our face before we were born, nothing can affect that. There are no hindrances or nets or baskets. But we have to just. Even if you're stuck in one of those states of mind that has captured you, remember that you're still sitting. So if you just let go, even, sometimes I find myself off in some wonderland. And then I say, oh my God, it's not that I'm practicing badly. That's what Zazen is. And so I let go. I have had times when I swear in a 30-minute sit, I was probably thinking in some dream state for 28 of the 30 minutes. But I noticed, at the end, that's good. I remember saying to Genzan once exactly that. And he said, dude, you noticed. She knows Genzan. Genzan talks like that. Very wonderful guy, actually. No more wonderful than Roshi Robert or Roshi June, by the way. Let's see. So, yeah, let me read what I wrote here. So even if you're stuck in one of those states of mind that has captured you, you're still sitting. And when you are in the midst of this wonder, it's universal reality. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to open them. Either version makes the point. Okay, Dogen goes on. Once you experience it, you're like a dragon swimming in the water or a tiger reposing in the mountains. So he uses a lot of mythology, right? And I think it's really interesting to recognize that Buddhism came out of Tao, and Tao was not so much mythology in China, but it was based in nature. And people were always looking at nature and trying to figure out why nature existed as it did. So the myth of Chinese and the reality of Chinese Tao infused Soto Zen Buddhism. In Buddhist mythology, the dragon is the king or the queen of water. There's a story about a dragon girl who becomes a Buddha that's in the Lotus Sutra. Dragons are very comfortable in the water. The dragon is untouchable there. The same with the tiger in the mountains. Hard to see, untouchable, but it's there. So we are equally safe in Zazen when we find our place within it, particularly if we just let thoughts drop. We can't be troubled. And he says, know that the true Dharma emerges of itself, clearing away hindrances and distractions. Norman Fisher, Norman Fisher is a great Buddhist teacher, everyday Zen. Norman Fisher believes that in Zazen, we're making a new body within the physical body. And that's why the physical body is sometimes having aches and pains. He says, like a butterfly pushing itself out of its chrysalis, it might be painful to look at what emerges. So too with our stuffing our body and mind in Zazen. It may be difficult, but in the end, it's beautiful. Let's see here. Furthermore, bringing forth the point, he says, by using a finger, a pole, a needle, or a mallet, or leading people to enlightenment with a whisk, a fist, a stick, or a shout. These are Rinzai approaches. This is the kind of stuff that happens in Rinzai. You read about people, they always ask, but getting hit on the back to awaken you, or the Rinzai master shouting at you, what? You don't know that? Or saying, no, you're wrong, start again. This is very typical Rinzai approach. Okay, so doing all those things using a finger refers to a Gutai's finger, where the Zen master used to say there is one point. This is the point of Zazen. And he had a student. You all know this story? And the student, one day, someone said to him, what is the point of Zazen? And the student went like this. And the teacher found out about it and called the student in and cut off his finger. It's a very Rinzai approach. But then the student walked away. And when he did, the teacher called him back and said, wait a minute. And he went like this to the student. The student suddenly realized everything. It's a tough learning, right? That is tough learning. But it's a great story. So by using a finger, a pole, a needle, a mallet, you cannot understand by discriminatory thinking. These all refer to famous stories in Zen that are awakening stories like the one I just told you. Not stories about, but stories in action. Usually they're encounter stories. Teacher and student, two brothers, like Avalokiteshvara, and the story of Avalokiteshvara, the two brothers talking, and one brother says, golly, am I going to get this wrong now? They're talking about, Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 arms and eyes, and how it's thinking about such compassion is like putting your arms behind and adjusting your pillow at night. And the brother says, That's all those arms and eyes, that's the all of it. And his other brother says, no, all of the body is all of it. In other words, the entire body, arms, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, torso, everything, heart is compassion. That's that story. It's a great story. Traveling monks meeting old wise women. That happens all the time in Zen. We read about these monks that encounter, it's always a wise old woman who knows far more and has never studied anything but life, knows and puts down. Like there's a famous story about a guy who's carrying all these books on the Diamond Sutra, and he's a great scholar of the Diamond Sutra, and he runs into this woman who's selling rice cakes, and he says to her, I want a rice cake, and she says, I want 3 rice cakes. She said, I won't give you one unless you can tell me the essence of the, why are you carrying all those books? He said, I'm a scholar of the Diamond Sutra. And she says, well, I'll give you these, but I'm not going to give you even one if you can't tell me what the meaning of the Diamond Sutra is. And he says, oh, it's obvious. And she says, goodbye. And he walks off and he realizes how smart she is and how little he knew. And he drops his books and he goes on to study the Diamond Sutra for real. Anyway, I think I got that story fairly right. I'm not quite sure, but okay, so all of these really talk about the power of Zazen when you're just sitting, letting go of body and mind, the sudden use of an instrument or shouting or the immediate awareness of somebody showing you how wrong you are, something, all these things, or how right you are, can wake you up. You may feel hurt, but that's okay. It's only after that, not in the moment, that you really learn something. How can we be understood by the use of supernatural power? Zazen is an awesome presence outside form and color. How is this not the path preceding concept? There's nothing special going on in Zazen. Nothing special, I think, other than our grasping. Don't search for form and color means to me that anything we grasp or identify or try to be happy with will always be limited. In the end, will always be disappointing. There are no supernatural events. Our awakening only happens beyond our perceptions and discriminative thinking. So again, nothing special going on, right? Let me see. Let's move. What time? Oh, time to. Let's see. I'm going to stop in a couple of minutes and see where we are. I love this part. Having received a human life, do not waste the passing moments. You know how precious it is to have our human life. Before this, like Yugetsu, I studied Tibetan Buddhism, and in Tibetan Buddhism, there's this lovely notion of the likelihood of a human life is to find a turtle every 1,000 years, 10,000 years, coming up through a life preserver that happens to be floating in the middle of the ocean. That's the likelihood of human life. And when you think how many ants and bees and beetles and whatever there are, and bacteria and viruses, things that are alive other than us, realize the likelihood of us being human is really remote. So we need to pay attention to the value of our human life. It's really, really, really important. And that importance means that we need to think, why do we sit Zazen? Why do we want to spend that 30 minutes, 40 minutes at a time? Why do we want, as somebody said to me, why do you want to just waste that time sitting? Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly and opportunity is lost. Let us awaken, awaken. Do not squander your life, is a night gotha that is read or said after the four vows in many Zen centers in the evening. So this is a pivotal opportunity for us to be human, using it wisely, practicing Zazen, doing no evil, being good to others, practicing loving kindness. After all, form is like a dewdrop on the grass. Human life is like a flash of lightning, transient and illusory, gone in a moment. Dewdrops don't last long, do they? Flashes of lightning don't last long. Remember our precious human life, it goes by so fast. A few weeks ago, I thought I had some chest pain. And I had to have an EKG with stress test. I was fine, completely normal. But it caused me to really think about the shortness of life. I'm 80, but I want to live a lot longer. At 80, I feel like my life is short. Do you all know what I mean by that, right? So, yeah, Sandy, you understand. Yeah, I know you're not nearly 80, but you get it. Oh, he is. He's 80. All right. So I used to think, I have 40 years until I'm 80. Suddenly here I am at 80. It's a long time, but at the same time, it's not. It's the same with my practice. Pat and I have been sitting for over 20 years, sitting Zazen together for over 20 years, but it doesn't seem that long. It went quickly. Be wise, guys. Use your time of holding the Buddha way. Strive to hit the mark by directly pointing. Revere the mind that goes beyond study and surpasses all things. Experience the enlightenment of the Buddhas, correctly inheriting the samadhi of ancestors. This is your opportunity with which you can gain by correctly inheriting the samadhi of the ancestors. That state of practice realization that is only achieved through Zazen. So my summary is this. When we do Zazen, we have to completely give away, let go of, drop our body, mind, and just be Zazen. And giving it away is to gift ourselves to everything there is, to the 10,000 things, to the earth and its multitudes of beings, both sentient and otherwise, and to the universe. I really mean all of that. Really mean. Comments, questions, yahoos, whatever.
Feel free to just unmute yourself online and jump in, or I can pass the mic to anyone here in the room.
Please do. Please don't let me sit here in silence.
Okay, over here.
Thank you. I have a comment and a question. So just regarding the preciousness of human life and how rare it is, I came upon this fact recently where it was saying, like, if you shrunk the earth down to the size of a 1-inch marble, the sun would be, at that scale, if you think of our solar system, the sun would be 63 feet in diameter, and you would need 7.5 miles just to model our solar system. So, that made me think just how small we are. And that's just our solar system,
What would we be?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and infinitesimally small.
So that's one star in our galaxy,
yes,
amongst billions of other galaxies.
Yes.
So just mathematically, the odds are so small of human life.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, and your question?
My question was about, Dogen talks very specifically about how to sit in Zazen.
Yeah.
With the left leg on top of the right leg.
Yeah.
Does that matter? Like,
No.
what are your thoughts on that?
No. So, first of all, it doesn't matter at all how you sit. What's most important? Just sitting, however you sit. Dogen was also talking to his students who were monks, So he really believed in ritual. If you read the whole Shobogenzo, or as much of it as you can, you'll see how much he believed in ritual, doing things in some sense of orthodoxy. So he wanted them to sit that way. But he himself got ill in his life, and he couldn't always sit the same way. And Shikuro Akamura down in Bloomington, this great Japanese Soto Zen priest and translator, can no longer sit in lotus or half lotus. He sits. Both Roshis sit in chairs. It's fine. Somebody else. Oh, Chris, didn't you start that?
Yeah, I always have something to say.
That's wonderful.
I just wanted to thank you for like bringing this teaching to us. It can seem so simple, just sit, and it's not at all. It's very deep. I just am recalling that when I first started sitting, I brought so much expectation to it. So many of us come to Zen and sitting because there's something going on in our lives that we want relief from. And it certainly does provide that if you stick with it, some relief. But it's also really wonderful to get to the point where you just sit, like you come just to sit with no expectation.
No goal.
No goal.
Right.
And that also part of what you were saying is like, you carry it with you then off the cushion. I mean, I'm going back to your other talk that you referenced. It's what happens for me never happens on the cushion. I mean, it's boring still but throughout my day, if I don't have that sit, that day is not as rich or as smooth.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it is. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to make a comment about the day without sitting is like a day without sunshine. For me, it truly is. And sometimes, I agree, sometimes sitting is boring, is incredibly boring. And sometimes it's so revelatory. Sometimes it's so alive. And I wish that I could say that the stuff that I once came to try to take care of was all taken care of because of my Zazen, but it's honestly not. It keeps coming up because it's just so deeply embedded in my life. All the pain and stuff that I thought I'm going to get rid of, I do, but then it comes back. And and that's why we sit Zazen. Otherwise we go around and we're asseverating and acting like jerks to other people, and we're constantly hangry, and I get hangry, and I think to myself, when Pat says you're hangry, I think to myself, maybe I need to not only, I don't say this to her ever, but I think to myself, maybe I need to have something to eat and then go sit, because I really should take care of that part of myself too when I'm hangry. Thanks, Chris.
This question of like, I'm at the start, I don't know much about the meditation or a lot as everyone else here, but as I was in the retreat and this line here to saying, turn your light inwards, see your true face, and then you start seeing it for the first time. You have a space to see it, but then I guess that's my mind goes okay, what if you get attached to being so inwards in this and you don't bring it outside, right? Because you don't reveal that face outside, then you kind of be stuck. So I wonder what is how to have a balance of sitting and then putting it out there.
That's a great, what's your name?
Martina.
Martina, as you say it. That's right. It's It's a wonderful question. So I'm going to give you two answers. The first answer is a really simple one. It'll happen. Okay? It'll happen. But that's not that's a simple, it's not flippant by any means, but it also almost sounds flippant. It'll happen. But the deeper part of it, I can only talk from me, okay? For me, it's a matter of going inward, but knowing deeply that whatever happens inward has got to have meaning outside, or else what's the point of my life? I have a wife, I have children, I have grandchildren, I have friends. If I don't do something with who I am, nobody's going to want to be with me. So I better be a better person. And that's just an example. Not be a hangry person, not be an angry person, not be somebody who's happy all the time, because if you're happy all the time, nobody's going to really trust that you're happy all the time. So I know it's important to carry what's there outward. So that's the deeper answer for me. And it didn't happen, Martina, right away. It didn't happen for the longest time. I think in terms of my lifetime of sitting zazen, over 20 years, maybe, I think we started like in 2001, 2002, something like that. So let's say in those 21 years of sitting, maybe I only really realized what I'm just telling you right now in the last 3 or 4. Okay. I think I owe a lot to studying Dogen, honestly. I cannot tell you all how deep Dogen is. He is the founder of Soto Zen. He is, as the founder, everything we do, even if we don't realize it, comes out of his teachings. So I cannot tell you how important it is to study Dogen. Now, in this center, we don't study Dogen particularly, but that doesn't mean you can't on your own or find some independent way. It's not hurting the center for you to study it independently. Yogetsu and I belong to the center, and we also study Dogen. And if anybody here wants to study Dogen with us, let me know. Send or let her know, and we'll set you up with it with us.
Thank you very much, Mark. I think we're about at time. Unless there's any other comments online or otherwise. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Those of you who are able, please join us for Kinship Hour for some refreshments. And the rest of you online, have a wonderful Sunday. Bye-bye.
Yeah. I had a poem that I almost read, but it's too long. Hakuin's Song of Zazen. Oh my gosh. We should read it and study it. Have you ever read it? Hakuin's Song of Zazen? Oh, it's great. I'll send it to you. Yeah. Thank you.